Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, and I am at the heart of the universe right now in Washington, D.C. for the inauguration of the one and only President Donald J. Trump, number 47. We're so excited. You really get the sense, this palpable sense of excitement all over the city. It's really like the MAGA forces have taken over Washington, D.C. It's incredible. Like I said, we didn't just get our country back, we're getting our capital back as well. And it's absolutely fascinating to go look around and you see all these hats, the 45 hats, 47 hats. People just totally excited. We're all, you bump into people and everyone's just high-fiving each other. I mean, the excitement is so palpable here, and everyone is so inspired, recognizing that we're actually taking back Washington, D.C. We're taking our capital back. We're not just taking back our country, and in many respects, we're taking back the world. It's really fascinating. It was a great article that just came out in the New York Post today that basically said 2024 was the year of the political left's defeat all over the world. They did an analysis of, there were 74 elections all throughout the world in 2024. 60% of them went to the right, the political right. Only 40% went to the political left. Now, this is crazy because we have never seen that 20% margin, that 20% divide between the political right and political left since 1990, in 40 years. The Soviet Union was still in power back then. And for me, that was really interesting because it was right around that time, in the early 1990s, that Sam Huntington of Harvard University made his argument, his Clash of Civilizations thesis, that the world was shifting to the right. It was moving away from the old modernist politics to a new postmodernist politics. The modernist politics was a politics of ideology, the Cold War politics, where the entire world was geopolitically restructured around two overall ideologies, right? So American democracy versus Soviet communism. And the question was, in the world, which side were you on? The entire world was remapped around those two dominant ideologies. Huntington argued after the fall of the Soviet Union in December 1991 that the world was going to break up from an ideological structure to a more identity-based structure. The world was going back to nation, culture, custom, tradition, civilization, and so that the world order was going to be reconfigured around what we would call more conservative sentiments that would make Pat Buchanan, for example, very, very happy in that. That's precisely the world he was arguing for in the early 90s as well, when he was challenging George Herbert Walker Bush for the Republican nomination in 92, when he ran for president again in 96. His argument was basically that of Sam Huntington's, that the world was moving away from neocon, neolib ideology to nation, culture, custom, and tradition. And that is precisely what is happening as of 2024. You know, we've been a channel now for over 8 years. Some of you have been with us from the beginning. God bless you. Thank you for sticking with us. But ever since the beginning, November 1st, 2016, I've been making the argument that we are entering into what I call on my channel, a new conservative age. And what I meant by that is that we were entering precisely into the kind of world that Sam Huntington was talking about. A world that was restructured around nation, culture, custom, and tradition. It's going to take time. The globalists are not going to give up their world, their ideological world, that easily. But over time, it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's only a matter of when. Hey gang, are you getting the sense that globalists are gearing up for a pandemic scare after failing at the ballot box in November? Just weeks before President Trump's inauguration, California Governor Gavin Newsom declared a bird flu state of emergency, granting himself sweeping powers reminiscent of COVID-19 policies. Now, this comes after a severe case of H5N1 bird flu was reported in Louisiana. Critics like Nicholas Holscher warned that pandemic fears may be weaponized to challenge Trump's agenda, including the nomination of RFK Jr. to lead the HHS. Is this a health crisis? Or is it a power play? Well, last summer, Dr. Peter McCullough warned about the bird flu, linking the virus's rapid spread to gain-of-function research, now a common practice at many labs globally. Dr. McCullough urges early prevention just in case, recommending a contagion emergency kit from the wellness company. His medical board-approved solution with 5 critical life-saving medications like ivermectin, Tamiflu, a nebulizer, and hydroxychloroquine. Every household can now have access to these hard-to-get medications in the event of another pandemic. Get yours by filling out a digital intake form, and your kit arrives in 1 to 2 weeks. Don't wait until the deep state puts their plans into action. Stay ready for the unexpected. Click on that link below right now. And so, here we are, 2024, and this New York Post article is talking about how the left is literally collapsing, like the Berlin Wall, all over the world. I mean, think about Trudeau is gone. Trudeau fell apart after being smacked around by Trump at Mar-a-Lago. The left-wing German government's collapsed. The left-wing Austrian government collapsed. They've just been replaced by their so-called far-right party, first far-right party to come to power. What else? Macron's hanging on by a thread. Keir Starmer in the UK has the lowest approval rating of any prime minister. And, of course, Joe Biden. Joe Biden completely and totally collapsed. And so what's happening there? What's going on? Well, many of you might follow Rogan O'Hanley, DC Drano, on Twitter. But I think he actually he posted this New York Post story, and I think he actually had a really good explanation for why the left collapsed so quickly here in the United States. And his argument is basically the left threw everything they had at President Trump. Everything they had. Their entire power structure that they had amassed over the last 7 decades in creating the deep state and the Democrat power structure. DC is a Democrat mecca, right? It votes 95% Democrat, or at least it used to. But they took their entire power structure and they threw it all at Trump, from the 24/7 media barrage of negative coverage from the moment he came down the escalator in, if I recall, June of 2015, to the special counsel investigations, to the 2 impeachments, the J6 counsel, 4 federal indictments, dozens of felony charges, kangaroo courts, convicting him in Manhattan over these absurd charges. And then even a Mar-a-Lago raid, can't forget that, and then 2 assassination attempts. They threw everything they had at him, and yet it only ended up making him stronger. And we predicted that was going to happen. We predicted it based on a cultural anthropological principle known as the process of segmentary oppositions. The process of segmentary opposition basically argues that external threats breed internal solidarity. External threats breed internal solidarity. So the more the external world threatens you and your inner group, as it were, the stronger the ties, the solidarity of that inner group. So we predicted that the more they tried to take Trump out, the stronger he would get. And that's precisely, of course, what happened. So in the end, what did they have? What was the only thing that they had left? The only thing they had left was election fraud. It was to rig the election. And then as a result of the segmentary opposition process, Trump amassed a coalition that was simply too big to rig. He amassed a coalition that created an election structure that was too big to rig. And they just collapsed. The whole thing fell apart, and largely because they all realize now, because they outed themselves over these last 8 years, Trump now can completely and totally dismantle the entire Democrat power structure. From the legacy media, all as he's doing, as we'll talk about in another video, suing CBS for $10 billion for election interference with their deceptively editing the Kamala Harris interview for 60 minutes. We'll get into that in a moment. That's glorious. From the legacy media apparatus all the way to the election rigging, because now we're going to have voter ID requirements in all 50 states and the like. He's just complete from the deep state, dismantling the deep state. He is dismantling literally the entire Democrat power structure. And as a result, they have completely and totally collapsed. So when we look back, gang, 2024 truly appears to be the year that the political left throughout the world collapsed. God bless.
Many people have told me that God spared my life for a reason.